Okay, so I'm I'm gonna talk a little bit about the first time. Well, I'm just gonna start from the beginning, actually. So I'm currently down here in beautiful St. George, Utah, um, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about how I got here and kind of the beginning of all of this. So back in 2013, 2014. I was living in Lehi, Utah, and kind of living the normal um, Utah Mormon life. And I was in a band. I was playing, recording, doing some touring. Had a normal day job, and went to church. Sometimes I'd find excuses not to go to church. Had a testimony. I was born and raised in Utah. I lived different parts of the United States. I lived in Georgia for a year. Went on a mission to Micronesia, Guam, South Pacific Islands, and then 6 months out, I got transferred to West Virginia. I had a kidney stone. Came back to Utah. Was transferred out to West Virginia. Finished my mission out there, and had a testimony. Knew the church. Knew the gospel was true. Read the Book of Mormon. Never really lost sight of my testimony. Just it wasn't really building. I had never really built my testimony, and so a big portion of that is due to my own lack of passion, due to my own lack of needing to feel like I wanted to be a better person, I guess. I felt like I was doing what I wanted to do, but didn't feel like I was making an effort. And I felt like, well, the my buddy who's whatever position in the church, elders quorum president, or my buddy who's over the home teaching, they're not really doing this, so what's the big deal for me? So there was a lot of things that I wasn't doing. Reading the scriptures was one of them. So kind of getting back to the beginning of it all, I was talking to some friends that had started diving pretty deep into deeper doctrine. And, a buddy I went to high school with that I was reconnecting with, there was some other individuals through friends that I knew, and I had a bishop who was Bishop Beckstrand in Lehi. It was Traverse Mountain area. I don't remember what the ward was called. Pheasant Point Ward, something like that. Anyway, he had mentioned, on like one of those fifth Sundays, is to stop being members of the church that were the lukewarm. It was now time to step it up, and this was back, like I said, 2013, 2014, something like that. And And I was recently married a few years before that, in 2011. And so I was like, well, we went home and thought about it. What can we change right now? What is kind of holding us back from reaching the celestial kingdom, or the goal to be able to reach the celestial kingdom? And a big part of it was I wasn't doing anything. I mean, I was going to church. I wasn't reading any of the lessons. And when people, they were talking, they would ask questions in class, whether it's gospel doctrine or whatever. I didn't know any of the answers. I went on a mission, but they'd say, hey, how does that apply to us? Or what was the culture back in the day? And I was like, how do these people know? They must be like scholars, these people, the only people that answer are scholars. And that's what I thought, just random, like 5 people in the ward, those are the only people that know anything, and find out, yeah, that's usually what it is. It's like, there's hardly anybody in the church that really studies, but that's what I thought. And so I thought, well, let's see if we can step it up a game. So, step up our game. So we made a list of all of the things we wanted to be able to work on to feel like we were actually trying to get to the celestial kingdom. One of them was attend church all 3 hours, a church. And another one was go to the temple every single week. Study the scriptures every single day. These are for the average Utah member of the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. Sadly enough, that's above average for these goals, right? This list, we decided to commit to it, and like I said, I was in a band. We were doing a lot of band things, and so I talked to the band. Hey, I'm going to be going to the temple every single week, so we need to carve out a night that I can not worry about the band, or a Saturday morning that I can dedicate to the temple. And when you start making goals to be righteous, Satan really attacks you. This came in multiple different ways. Number one, the band kept fighting me on days that I could have off. You know what I mean? On top of that, I just I'd been in music for my life. That was my passion, right? I quit. I said, you guys aren't going to give me one night. I quit. So quit the band. Sold. Later on, sold pretty much all my recording studio, like all my music equipment, everything. As I'm thinking about it, it kind of reminds me of Abraham Gileadi's story. He was a musician before he decided to give his life over. So I quit the band, started going to the temple every single week. I'm studying, and I decided to get right into it. I'm going to start studying anti-Mormon doctrine, anti-Mormon literature. That's what it is. So I basically found everything and anything I could find. Found a lot of inappropriate information, but everything I looked at, I studied. I had my sources from the Anti-Mormon, and then on another tab, information on from LDS.org or from Abraham's site. IsaiahExplained.com. I had Joseph Smith papers, Journal of Discourses, all these other, sites that I could go to for information. Anyway, I found out that they didn't really have a leg to stand on. There's a lot of misinformation, a lot of partial stories, a lot of information and doctrine that they just didn't get, and so because they never really decided to study about it from the actual documents, and they didn't understand because they didn't have the Spirit, they left. And so I thought, well, that was pretty easy, and that was probably a good, 3 to 6 month study. Previously, I'd studied some really weird stuff like, anyway, I'm not going to mention it here. So I was used to studying, you know, I was just used to researching online and through documents and things. And so anyway, I really liked it, but then my study ended when I found all the anti-Mormon literature to be inaccurate or inaccurate or just misinformation or whatever it is, but it was just all wrong. And were not the full piece of the puzzle, right? Partial. So then I decided, hey, you know what? I'm just going to study deep doctrine. So I started deep doctrine studying, and then after that, I started studying old man doctrine, as Mike Stroud calls it on his older podcast. And so I studied all this, and I'm studying it little by little, right? I'm mentioning resources that I didn't get into till a year later, but studying and during this time, by the way, we were haunted about a good year and a half straight. Every 2 nights, evil spirits would walk in, try to possess Monet. They would try to attack. They would wake us up in the middle of the night, about 3 o'clock in the morning. Pretty heavy, intense. I saw them. I smelled them. They were speaking to me. I could hear them. They're making noises, pretty intense. And my first wife, one of her gifts was that she could see spirits, and I'd always wanted that gift. And so the 2 years we were married, I really, really tried to see what she was doing to be able to get in tune. And towards the end of it, I saw them a few times, and then it went away. I got divorced. I probably had evil demons all over me telling me to kill myself, and girls didn't want me, so I might as well, look in another direction. So there's a lot of demons around me, and when I met Monet, her parents were temple goers, and it's kind of new to me because my family, my dad is Mexican, my mom's Japanese, and my dad, his family was converts, my mom was a convert, and so they're both not really in church right now. And so growing up was hard because we had 5 kids, and so there was not really a big good push for family home evening. Anyway, so I learned basically my little bit of knowledge from Seminary Institute, things like that, the mission, and church. So going back to the evil spirits, didn't really know what to do about them, so I started studying about spirits on the other side. Got into a lot of near-death experience books, which was pretty awesome. I shared the title with my brother because he's been atheist for years, and agnostic. Sorry, his wife was atheist for years, and I thought, you know what, he reads. This will be maybe up his alley. I don't know what he believes in. Maybe I'll start with near-death experiences. What does he believe? And so I messaged him, and he messaged back, oh yeah, don't tell anyone in the family, but yeah, I killed myself in 2011, and twice. And he said he saw some amazing things. Had a conversation with someone, and he was on a lot of drugs, alcohol, and so you can imagine the conversation wasn't with someone of light, but he had a conversation. He was given the opportunity to come back, and if he didn't want to be there, he said that he was told to repent of his sins, which he didn't believe in at that time, and to make some better choices. And so from then on, he's no longer agnostic. I don't know if his wife is still the atheist, but they're extremely nice people to be around now. Before 2011, it was pretty hard to have a family dinner, as you can imagine. Anyway, it brought me to some different books. I mean, that book that I was reading, Echoes from Eternity, was was loaned to me from Monet's brother, David Perry, davidperryfilms.com. He does, pretty well known. He's with the wedding videographer. But yeah, he's very open about the subject. Said, yeah, you should read this book, and that's how I got onto Echoes from Eternity. And then talking to some other friends, and we were told about the book. Actually, multiple friends told us about the book Visions of Glory from, as told to John Pontius, the LDS author, who I guess is now passed. But yeah, the man Spencer in the book, is a bishop who lives in Provo, I guess. Had a lot of near-death experiences, about 3 of them, and angels took him to premortal existence, to the future. He saw the 7-year tribulation, the destruction that happens in Utah, all this. And it describes like the millennial reign, like it's amazing. Anyway, he has a different name in the book because he wants to be anonymous. He doesn't go on a lot of attention-seeking tours or anything like that. He doesn't go sign books. He stays in the regular life because he doesn't want to bring attention to himself. He wants to have people follow the apostles and prophets. So anyway, starting to learn about these things, and I'm starting to gain a testimony, right? I started watching Jake Hilton videos back in the day. If you guys remember, Jake Hilton taught a lot of really good lessons. The Time Is Now, something like that. These, like, I think it was 3 or 4 series, like 6 hours long, about why these are the last days, evidence from celestial evidence from the skies, wars, rumors of wars, the scripture evidence, the prophecy fulfillment evidence, like all these evidence, sections of evidence. And anyway, I started to get into deeper, and then anyway, so scooting back to Lehi, I had like I said, an ex-wife, and I had a daughter, and her name is Aiden, and going back and forth from my place, the ex-wife's place, and even when she took off, they left for Indiana for a while, like a year or 2 years, something like that. They came back and back and forth, and the Lord told me when I was at the temple, He said, you need to be open for adoption. And I'm like, whoa, because my ex-wife had said, hey, my third husband, my new husband now wants to adopt. And I'm like, I'm not done being a dad. I was very selfish. I just never listened to her. I just said, no. It's out of the question. And then when I was told that in the temple, I was like, whoa, what kind of sacrifice is this, And anyway, a lot of fasting, a lot of praying. I was told I needed to do it. I signed off on them adopting, and I started having visions in the temple around the same time. I saw Utah, so I was living in Lehi at this time, North Lehi. I saw, like I was floating above Saratoga Springs area. That's, back in the day when I was super worldly, I wanted to buy a big house with a big glass wall on the back with a wraparound deck, just look over the lake. And so anyway, that's just part of who I was. I want to make it clear that I was a different person back then, and so anyway, I had this vision that I was floating above Saratoga Springs and saw across the lake to like I-15 area, Orem, American Fork, all the way up to Lehi, and then to the point of the mountain that was all black, like dark black. There was smoke. There was fires. There were looked like earthquakes had happened. All the buildings were in shambles. There was no light, like an EMP had hit. People were crying. There was not a lot of people that I could see. There was no transportation. Anyway, I hear voice says, the voice says, look, and I was looking at all this. And then I was told to look down, and I looked down beneath my feet, and under the ground I saw an outline of a structure, and I was told you need to build a bunker for what's to come. And I'm like, what's coming? What's a bunker? So later, I found out that a bunker is this, thing that you put underneath the ground and hide out in. And I'm like, I don't have any land. Like, the property I own right now that I'm living in is a condo. Like, there's no property, there's no land, I can't. So I didn't really do my research. I didn't do any looking around. I didn't figure out if I could get another loan. I didn't try to sell the place to get a loan to buy a property. I didn't try for anything. So anyway, well, that was the start of when things really started to pick up.